Hi, I just wanted to share today um, why it is so important, or why it is important at all to include the body when we practice yoga. Because yoga is kind of, meditation and samadhi. And why do we not just do more um, practices like just closing our eyes? Why are we hatha yogis, instead of doing going directly, why are we putting our bodies into various kinds of shapes? And um, because I really wondered that as a yoga practitioner, as a hatha yoga practitioner, because uh, um, honestly, it's not easy, especially like at 40, the body is really really hard to like bring into various shapes. So a lot of times I'm pushing my body to limits which don't make sense. So I, I would often wonder, is it to gain flexibility? Is it to gain strength? Is it to like just age well? What is it that we're really doing with the body? So here's something that's really come to me with a whole lot of understanding, a whole lot of study, and um, I hope it helps, because the why of doing something is like really important as to actually wanting to do it, and keeping that spark alive. So, um, firstly, firstly, it is very, very, very hard to go directly into meditation. Like it's like we close our eyes, and the best we are doing is daydreaming for the next 20 minutes. Like our mind goes from one thought to another thought to another thought to another thought, and before we know it, we've just like thought about our whole day or a whole life, or like, and that's what we do if we directly go without some kind of physical training. And this is why it happens, because especially the yuga that we live today, the Kali Yuga, where our environments are so dynamic, the thought currents in our electromagnetic field are so rapid. Everything is moving so quickly. It's really very very hard to create space between one thought to another thought. That space is what we are looking for in meditation. What we want to do is to expand that space, that space between one thought and another thought. We want to create a little bit of a gap there, from like 1/10 of a second to maybe 1 second or 5 seconds or 2 minutes or 5 minutes. And that's really the best we can do. Like the best of us, uh, we can't eliminate thought altogether. It's just not possible, because thoughts are like these waves. They're just floating along in our field, and whatever thoughts we're having, like those thoughts have a certain frequency. And just like a radio, we just tune in to the thoughts of the same frequency in the in our field. And just like a radio, we tune into one song after another song, after, one thought after another thought and after another thought. And and that's how our minds get like really busy. And so really the best we can do is just slow down the thoughts, so that we can just become aware of the thoughts that we are tuning into, so that we can just become aware of like how that thought, and just thinking that thought is making our life experience happen the way it is happening. Again, it's very very hard when we just close our eyes and go directly, because there's a lot of um, traffic. Think of the mind as an express highway, like when there's so many cars coming along, and you really Like one thought goes out of control, like one car loses its way or breaks down, there's like this massive chaos, a massive pile up that occurs, and you're kind of like left to the mercy of what's going on in the field. But when these thoughts slow down, when there is more space in between the cars, and the cars can just maneuver where they want to go, uh, then we can pick and choose our lane. Like we can pick and choose our thoughts. We can take the thoughts, okay, this is not working for me, okay, let me put it in this instead, and we can think happy thoughts and positive thoughts, and we can begin to eliminate or reduce the negative um, conditioning of our minds. This is where the body really helps, because the body is such a beautiful thing. The body only um, operates in the present moment. Everything in the body is felt in the present moment. Like if I hit, I feel it right now. I don't feel it in the past. I don't feel it in the future. It really helps to break down the pattern of thinking in the past, of thinking in the future, and basically not being in the present moment. It brings us time and again to the present moment. Every sensation that is felt in the body happens in present time. Like if I stretch my finger, I feel the sensation in present time. I'm really narrowing the stream of thoughts, and in a way I am beginning to kind of like the grip of mass consciousness starts loosening on our mind, and slowly we begin to create some space, and it is in that space that the breath comes in. When we do a stretch, we contract and then we stretch. We begin to add the element of breath in the pose, and the breath is what creates the space, like the intercellular space, the intermuscular space, and it's very weird, but in a very strange way, it's actually the same space that operates between one thought and another thought in meditation. It's actually the space in which the breath dwells. And the breath is the only thing that is in the present moment. Everything else is the past or the future. But the breath is what is in the present. It's just when we begin to see our body as something that is holding the breath, or where the breath is beginning to dwell, um, it just creates we feel like there's a little bit of opening, like most of us feel a certain opening, like something opens up, and that is the space where the breath comes in, and that is the space where the present moment happens, where we remain in the present moment with like where we're not carrying like the heavy burden of like 1,000 thoughts. Like the traffic has kind of dispersed, and there are like fewer vehicles, and there's just more room for creativity. In this way, we can begin to kind of move our awareness from the whole world, and then bring it to the container of the body, and then slowly start narrowing it to the breath, and the movement of the breath, and what we call the breath body, or the pranamaya kosha. And once we're aware of the pranamaya kosha, and how it directly has an effect on the mind, like the slower we breathe, fewer thoughts there are bombarding our awareness. So we can directly begin to observe our mind and what kind of thoughts we are kind of picking, what kind of thoughts we are thinking and tuning into, and and that is your manomaya kosha, the mental body, or the emotional body. That's how we can kind of slowly pave our way to a deeper sense of who we are and a deeper sense of mindfulness. There is a second very beautiful reason why our body is so important, and why bringing our body along in our meditation work and in our yogic work is so important, is that every trauma that we have experienced is experienced first in the body. Now, whether it's a physical trauma, like somebody hit you, it was felt first in the body. Whether it's an emotional trauma, for example, a stranger walking inside your house, you feel your heartbeat go duk, 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 duk. Or when you're extremely scared, when you're like looking down a very tall building, you feel like this sensation, like weird sensation in your gut. Every trauma has a kind of memory. It's recorded as a series of sensations in the body. So what happens is, when an emotional event occurs, the first time we feel it, what our body is doing is it's creating a certain amount of stress hormones to buffer the experience for us. So the stress hormones themselves, they help the body to contract certain muscles so that we do not feel the full impact of the event in the present moment, so that we can just kind of deal with it and not get overwhelmed with it. So it's kind of a protection mechanism, because you don't want to break down. You want to be able to suitably respond in that moment and not feel overwhelmed by it. But what happens when we keep experiencing the event over and over again, and uh, that time we just keep contracting the muscles, like, and we keep releasing those stress hormones into the blood, and that is what we experience as tightness, as certain tension in the body, like, my lower back is always hurting, my shoulders are always in pain. There's a very clear mapping of what kind of emotion is stored where. Like, when we feel like a lot of burden of our society and like a sense of responsibility, we take a lot of pain in the shoulders. When we have a lot of anger issues, it's usually the stomach. It actually impedes our digestion, and we end up with like bloating and gut issues. When we stretch in hatha yoga, we are beginning to release all that recorded information, all that, those events of trauma that we have recorded over and over again from the subconscious storehouse. This is so key in a meditator's life, because when we sit for meditation, often, I mean, if you've gotten deep enough in your meditation, you'll realize that there are certain key thoughts, key traumatic um, thought loops that we form, like, why did he do this to me, why did this happen to me, why did, and or some one negative emotion is going to trigger, like, it's going to light up all the thoughts of similar frequency in our thought field. Simple angry thought is going to also like light up the guilt center and the sadness center and the uh, fear center of our brain, and before we know it, we've gotten into this loop of negativity. So this will and this often happens, and unless these are addressed, sitting in meditation is a big fight. So when we stretch, we begin to slowly um, loosening our resistance to feel those emotions. We are then beginning to like feel like we can welcome them, welcome these emotions that we have suppressed and locked down deep inside of us. We can slowly begin to release them in a safe space where nobody is like coming down on us and nobody is judging us. It's just there's just the breath and there's just you. And and when we offer spaciousness, not by pushing it down, not by reactivity, but just giving space, an emotion can just release into pure awareness.